foundation, it shows who I am. But it's just the beginning, not the end of the plan. Through trials and heartache, I've learned how to fight to shape my tomorrow. I start with tonight. It's not about the shadows, it's about the flame, fueling the courage to rewrite the game. Every step forward, I leave fear behind. Greatness is waiting, it's yours and it's mine. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. Through the storms and the pain, I'm finding my way again. With purpose, with heart, I'll never fall apart. It's the journey, not just the end, a story that begins again. I'll build it, I'll create a life that resonates. Be great. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. This is your story, it's time to ignite. A life of intention, a future so bright. The world is waiting, don't let it wait. Step into your greatness, it's time to be great.
Hey, everybody. Hello and hello and hello and welcome in. Looks like we've got everything firing on all cylinders. Welcome in. Sorry for the long intro there. Welcome in. How are you guys doing? My name is Andrew, and I am, let's see, I'm known as the Mindset Mentor on TikTok. Here on Twitch, I am Orpheus Quine, and you may also know me as the founder and CEO of the Idea Training Academy. We are a company that helps people become the best version of themselves. And today, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the one way that you can become the best version of yourself. Okay, so let's start with it this way. Who's out there who has trouble saying no? Do you have trouble saying no to things? Are you saying yes to too many things? Are you involved? Are you engaged with too many things in your life right now? Let me know if you are, because I want to know. Let's see. Hello, Kitty Cat. Welcome in on the Twitch side. How are you doing? Tao's been resting all week. Doesn't want to go to the doctor. Yeah, I feel that, right? You go to the doctor, you might get worse. We don't want that. We don't want that at all. So let's talk. I want to talk. I wanted to talk. What kind of spurred this whole conversation? And by the way, welcome to everybody who's popping in on TikTok. It's good to see you guys as well. I wanted to start out by kind of what stirred this up in my head. Emily hates saying no to friends and family, but when it comes to people I don't know, I very much can just be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Right. But it's the friends and family, it's the people that matter to us that sometimes we have a hard time. And you feel Tal feels like she has her hands in too many things. So that's what we're going to talk about. It seems like, listen, guys, one of the things that I help people with, so the problem that I help people solve, because that's always the question, right? Is, all right, Andrew, great. You know, it's great. Here you are, you're coaching, you could do a stream, everything's, it's great. Everybody does it. But what's the problem you help people solve? And I'll tell you right now, here's the problem that I help people solve. It's this. People don't know how to set their priorities in life. And I know there's no shade on that. I have the same difficulties myself. I have the same problems myself, but I've developed patterns for how to do this. So we're going to talk about that today. And I want to first, I want to, of course, point your attention down to my Substack, andrewburkum.substack.com. You'll find it at the bottom of the screen. That's my weekly newsletter. It's completely free. I would love to have you go sign up. I give away a free tool every single week. Really exciting tools the last couple of weeks. Really proud of the work that we've done over there, building those tools out for you guys. So go join that if you haven't. It costs you nothing. And if you don't like to read, I always record an audio version every single week. So it's a little something for everybody. There's no video yet. I may do video at some point, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes. So here's what it is. I've been in interviews this week because, as you guys know, I'm an interviewer. I'm a recruiter. I help hire people. And so I've been interviewing people this week. And there's a question that I ask every single candidate that they have trouble with. And so if you're out there looking for a job right now, if you're going to be out there looking for a job, I'm going to give you a freebie right now. And the freebie that I'm going to give you right now is this. If you get this question, I'm going to help you be prepared to answer it in a way that's going to get you the job. So get out your pen and pencil because this is going to help you in your next job interview. The question is this. If three people came to you, and they all had equally urgent requests, how would you prioritize getting those things done? So I want you to think about it. So if you were at your job or if you were at home or whatever, if three people came to you and they had equally urgent requests, how would you prioritize those? Now, some of you may be cheating, right? Some of you may have been around for long enough that you know what I'm going to say here. But I'm curious, what would you say? If you had three people and they came to you and every one of them had something urgent, how would you pick what to do first? And I'll tell you that most people don't think about this. Most people don't have a strategy for how to handle, what comes first, what comes second, what comes third. I heard Erwin McManus, who's one of my coaches, he was on a podcast last week, I think, and somebody asked him a very, very similar question. They were an artist, and they said, as an artist, I've got all of this stuff I want to do. What do I do first? And Erwin's answer was, well, do it, if everything's of equal urgency, then do the thing that you don't want to do first. Do the thing that doesn't make you happy first, and then save the stuff that you want to do for later as a reward. I think that's a good answer. I do. But I want to broaden it out a little bit more because that works when you're a certain type of person. But I think I have a category system that will work for every single person. Jesse, hello and welcome in. It's based on their skills and mine. Tell me more about that. It's like eating your vegetables before you eat your steak. That's exactly right, Emily. That's what Irwin's saying. He's like, and by the way, I'm not knocking this. I think he's 100% right, right? So if you're somebody and everything you've got is urgent but maybe not important, right? Then you deal, that's the priority list. You deal with the stuff you don't want to do first, and then you save the stuff that you do want to do for later, and you get a little bonus. And I think that's a great way to kind of psychologically trick yourself into doing the hard work. But I'm going to tell you what I think, because here's what most people say to me when I ask them that question. So when I ask them the question of, hey, three stakeholders come to you, they've all got equally important or equally urgent requests. How do you prioritize? Most people say to me, I would go based on the deadline. I would say, okay, well, what's due first? And I'll do that first. And then what's due second? And I'll do that second. And what's due third? And I'll do that third. But here's the problem. What if there are no deadlines? Or what if the deadlines are ambiguous? Or what if they're all long term or short term projects? Then what do you do? What do you do when there are no deadlines? See, falling back on deadlines is the easy way to answer this question, but it's not the answer that I want as somebody who's looking for somebody to hire. I love my veggies and steak, so I eat it all together. Let's go, Cat. There is something to be said, by the way, if you are monitoring things like your glucose, right? If you want to avoid glucose spikes and things like that, I will give you a little trick that I have heard recently on a couple of podcasts, and that is this. If you want to avoid a glucose spike, make sure you eat your vegetables first. So eat your vegetables first. So, like me, for example, for lunch, I had a bowl. I had some greens, some spring greens, and I had a little bit of kimchi fried rice. Kimchi is fermented; it's great for the gut health, really, really good. And I had a little bit of ground turkey and beans that were mixed together, and I had two hard-boiled eggs. Right, so you got all your good macros there. You got your proteins and all your fiber and all of it covered. But I made sure to eat the greens first. And here's why. Because when you eat something that's rich in fiber, typically vegetables, when you eat your vegetables first and you're getting a lot of fiber, what it does is it actually helps create a fiber mesh in your gut. And that helps to regulate the absorption of the glucose that comes from the rest of the food. And so you don't get that glucose spike. When you feel kind of tired late in the afternoon, a lot of times it's because you eat that midday meal, and if I was to go right to the protein, I could get a glucose spike that would knock me off my feet later on in the afternoon. So I have found this has worked for me. It has made me, it's given me more consistent energy throughout the day. I eat very high protein breakfast, very high protein lunch, but I always make sure that I involve some greens of some kind because that creates that fiber smash that helps prevent the glucose spike. So just a little bonus tip for you guys. I'm not a nutritionist. You can go to, whoever's podcast for that, right? But these are things that I have heard in the last couple of weeks that I've been trying out and they've been working for me. Let's see. Jesse says it's something their person isn't skilled at, but I am. Makes sense to assist them. If I do have the skills, Orpheus Quine MD, right? If I do have the skills, someone else would be better to. Oh, if I don't have the skills, someone else would be better to support. Okay, so that's a really good way to look at it too, right? Is in terms of what are the resources that I have. Do I have the resources? So my question assumes that all of these things are within your capability. And that's the problem, isn't it? Because how often do people ask you to do things that you couldn't do? And one of the reasons that I think we get caught in saying yes so much is because all of the requests that come in seem reasonable to us. They all seem like things that we could do feasibly. We have the skills to do them. Many of them aren't even skill based. They're very, very simple things, right? Kitty Cat says, my issue is I skip breakfast and normally skip lunch too, then eat dinner. That was me up until probably about a month ago, Kitty Cat. And I will tell you, I am so much better regulated now than I was before. And I know it's hard, right? And so I'm not, again, I'm not a dietitian. I'm not prescribing anything for you. But what I can tell you is over the course of the last month, I've changed my diet in that way and I've started eating breakfast, which I never did before. And I'm trying to make this final cut kind of on my weight loss journey so I can get into the body fat level that I want to be in. And so I looked up some nutritional things and I found this out. And I'll tell you what, it really, really works. Probably the most fit person that I've ever known, a gentleman that I used to work with, he kind of ate this way. He was very consistent about hitting his meals. And I know that he was a very fit human being. So I aspire to do that. And that's part of why I'm trying it. So give it a shot. See if it works for you. I know it's bad, but I'm so busy during the day taking care of the kiddos and the house or appointments, I neglect eating food myself. That's right. Well, listen, here's the thing, right? One of the things that I try and tell my coaching clients is, and for those of you who might be new, in addition to doing live streams like this and writing books and writing newsletters, I also am a coach. So I work directly with executives and with other people who just have issues in their lives. Typically with people who are struggling to figure out what their priorities are and how to create a strategy to achieve those. And one of the first things that I have to remind them is you can't help anybody if you don't have the resources, right? So just make sure that you're giving yourself the resources to get through it. Thank you, Emily. That's a reminder in the Twitch chat that if you're interested in coaching, I do have a Discord server. You can join that. You can send me a direct message there, and I'll be more than glad to hook up with you and to see if I can help you, to see how I can help you, rather, because I'm sure I can help you. Thank you. And there's the Discord. So here's the thing. I don't want you to fall back on deadlines because I think that reveals something deeper about you. And I say you, but I'm talking to me. I'm talking to myself, but you're on the other side of the camera. And so I'm going to say you because it's weird if I say you and then point to myself. But if I say us, I think this reveals something deeper about us, you and me. And that is this. The more I think about it, the more I realize that the fact that we fall back on deadlines so easily means that we are trained. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately, about the fact that we're trained to see things in certain ways. I was talking to my son this last week. He's 21, and 21, you know everything, right? I knew everything when I was 21, and I'm sure you did as well. And we were talking about people who had a lot of money, right? Billionaires, millionaires, whatever else. And to my son, who's 21, anybody who has a lot of money, there's no possible way that they could do anything good in the world. There's no possible way that they could have made that money honestly, right? And my contention was, yeah, there's a fair share of bad people in that world, but there are also people who are intensely good and who are doing great good in the world. And my point was, it's not the generation of the wealth that is the problem. It's what goes along with it or what you do with it when it happens. And what occurred to me in that moment was he's been trained by the society he grows up in to see rich bad. Rich bad. That's what a lot of our young people think right now, is that rich is bad. And as a result, they don't think that generating wealth is accessible to them. Well, I want to tell you right now that generating wealth is accessible to you. You can do it. It has been done by people before in the past. And as I say in the book, Be Great, coming out later this year, you don't live in some kind of real world where those lessons don't apply to you. But the key that I want to hone in on here is that he's been trained to see things that way, rich, bad. And I want you to ask yourself, how have I been trained? So when it comes to priorities, ask yourself, how have I been trained? And here's what I think. We've been trained to respond to urgency, but not mission. I will say this again, just to reiterate. We've been trained to respond to urgency, not mission. Now, if you are reading my Substack, another shameless plug, but if you are reading it, you know that I am in the middle of a 4-part series on how to pursue your personal mission. Because I think that most of us don't think from the standpoint of our mission, what our mission is in life is, what we are designed to do, what our best future holds for us, and how we get there on a pathway. And I don't want you to live in that place. I want you to live in a place of intention. So what I want you to do is I want you to untrain yourself to respond to urgency. It is urgent. Oh, I need you to do this now. I need you to do this now. This needs to be done. This needs to be done. This needs to be done. You got to get yourself out of urgency and back into mission. And that means you need to figure out what your mission is. So today I'm going to give you a framework, because you know that every week on Thursday, it's all about frameworks. I could call this Framework Thursday, but that would be weird. It should be Framework Friday, but I can't do this stream on Fridays. So I want to give you a framework every week. And this week, I want to give you a framework for figuring out what really deserves your yes. Not based on the noise, not based on the requests, not based on what other people think you should do, but based on clarity around your personal mission. So as I launch into this, I have a question for you, and I want you to spend some time thinking about this. And it is this: what's something that's on your calendar right now, maybe this week, that feels urgent, but really isn't very important? Do you have something like that on your calendar where it feels, oh gosh, this feels so urgent. It's something that's got to get done. But then if you think about it, it's not really that important. Do you have anything like that? You could toss it in chat if you do. You can just think about it in your head. You can write it on a piece of paper. But think about that, right? Eh, Because here's the issue, right? Is that we use this urgency as an internal compass sometimes, don't we? We just become kind of reactive. And I've talked a lot about this, about being proactive versus reactive. I was talking to my friend Jim yesterday, and we were talking about some of the problems, in the world, and some of the things in the culture. And I said, Jim, here's what I think it is. I think it is that we have shifted from a culture that is participatory to a culture that is an observation culture. So from a participatory culture to an observation culture, meaning that our highest ideal is no longer to be a part of. Our highest ideal is to watch through a lens. And you could pin this on technology if you want to. I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to say social media is the end of the world or anything like that. I do think that one of the reasons we get addicted to social media and to screens is because we we're wired now to be observers, not participants. And think about that in your life. Where are you an observer instead of a participant? Even when we talk about online community building, when we're in online communities, a lot of times we're sort of voyeurs, aren't we? We're sort of watching. And maybe we're learning, but we're never really taking that step in, never to become participants. Emily says, bills mostly, the looming overhead of paying bills is always in an urgent state for me. I'm always nervous of things being taken away. If they aren't kept on up on to a sense, they would be, but still, that's true. So the question is, that may be important, but is it urgent? Right? So there's this balance between what's urgent and what's important. And so important, paying the bills is important. Don't get me wrong, 100% important, but is it urgent? Does it need to be done on the day when the bills come in? Does it need to be done 6 days before the bills come in? Right? Are there other activities that you could be doing that would be moving you towards your mission, but you're filling that time with worrying about the bills? Again, right there, not judging anybody. Here's the problem with urgency. And the bills metaphor is a good metaphor, because urgency is always, almost always, about someone else's agenda. So in my urgency around paying the bills is because the people who have the stuff that I'm paying for want me to pay them, right? I got a text. I was on my post lunch walk today, and I got a text from a storage facility that one of my old businesses rents still, because I haven't been able to get my business partner to clean it out. And I get this text every month. Hey, Your rent is due for the thing. It's due on the 1st. Well, guess what? It's the 3rd. I haven't paid it yet. And I'm not saying I haven't paid it yet to say, "Hey, I'm neglectful and that's awesome and that's great." But here's the thing. I know for a fact that they will remind me every month and that all I have to do is click on that text and log in and pay the bill. It's all, it's not one, unfortunately, that I can automate, or I would automate it, right? If I automate the bill, if I put it on auto pay, then I never have to worry about it. And you guys have heard me say before that as much stuff in your life, and I'm not talking about just bills here, but as much stuff in your life as you can automate, as much stuff as you can put on auto pay, the better off you're going to be. The much of that daily nonsense noise that you can get out of your cognitive space, the better off you're going to be, because you're going to have more time to create. You're going to have less time to observe and more time to participate. And that's what really it's about. But it's about getting out of other people's agenda. But when we take urgency out of that equation, most of us don't have a filter left because we don't have anything to go on other than by what everybody around us wants or needs. Right? Oh, they want and need that. They want that. So they're going to tell me when to do that, and they're going to tell me when to do that. And my boss is going to give me this assignment, and my coworker is going to give me this thing to help with. And it's always responsive to someone else's needs. And listen, I will be the first person to tell you, you should walk through life as selflessly as you possibly can. But that doesn't mean that you should be supremely reactive to the needs of everyone around you. Because sometimes the most selfless thing you can do is stick to your mission. And this is the problem, is that most of us don't anchor to a mission in our lives. We just react to the day by day. And that's why we're all busy all the time, is because we don't know what's really important in our lives. And I ask people this and they hate it. But the question you got to ask yourself every day, what's most important right now? I say it every single week, but I'm not going to stop. Because until you can answer that question, what's most important right now, then you're not going to move forward. Okay, I'm going to take this to business because I have a new business opportunity. One of my business partners who's been with me for a couple of different ventures now, and I will say a couple of different relatively failed ventures. But this business partner is with me. He's a great guy. I love him to death. In fact, he's one of my best friends. And he has come to me with a new business idea. But here's the problem. He came to me with a new business idea. And then a few months in, now the business idea has changed. And so before, the business idea was, I'll just kind of give it to you in brief. It was going to be kind of a small publishing venture where we were going to write some stuff, we were going to publish it, and we were going to sell it. We're going to create a little community around it. And we're not talking in the coaching space now. This is fun stuff, right? This is fictional stuff. So we're going to create a little community online about it. We were going to make some extra money, and we were going to sell some stuff and hopefully kind of move up through the ranks there. But now, yesterday, I come into the office and we're sitting and we're talking about this business venture, and he's introduced an entirely different concept into the business. Now he wants us to get into a production side. And my first response to that was, okay, well, I'll consider that. I'll think about it. But guess what I was doing? I was being reactive. I wasn't thinking in terms of mission. I wasn't thinking in terms of my mission, and I wasn't thinking in terms of the mission of the business. And things got worse from there. The last time this gentleman and I started a company together, we started it with 8 people. There were 8 partners in the business. And you can guess what ended up happening. 2 of us ended up doing all of the work. And then a couple of the other people, ended up spending a lot of money. And now that the company is left with just him and me, guess who's left cleaning up the money that was spent by a couple of the other people? Problematic, right? It's difficult. And then there's one partner in particular that he wants to bring into this new venture, and that partner is just not a good business partner. And again, it's no shade on the person. I know this person has great intentions and great things at heart. But the fact of the matter is this person is irresponsible with money. This person does not understand the value of money and does not understand the capacity to make money in a for-profit scenario. And as a result, this person is a bad business partner and someone that I do not want to get back into business with. But I didn't say that in this meeting. I didn't say that. I didn't say, "Hey, you know what? I'm not going to go back into business with him. I'm just not going to." I said, "Well, let's take a meeting and let's talk about it." Why? Because I was being reactive. Now, all of this came to me this morning. Something wasn't sitting right with me about it, and all of it came to me this morning. So I'm going to have a follow-up conversation with this friend of mine and say, "Hey, listen, I'm not going into business to do this extra thing, and I'm not going to be into business with this person because they're not a good business partner. And at this point in my life, I have a mission. My mission is to reach as many people as possible to help them become better versions of themselves. And what you're talking about being a production company, that's not going to help me with that, you know. And this, this writing the books and things like that, writing the stuff, that's that's closer to the mission. It's still not on mission, but it's a little bit closer because it's at least helping to build that audience a little bit. And this production thing, it's not. There's a pre-existing audience. It's not on mission. It's not what I want to do. So I'm going to have that uncomfortable follow-up conversation, and I will. But that's the way you've got to process, right? Is you need something better than deadlines. You need direction. You've got to have a direction in your life, because if you don't have a direction in your life, you will never prioritize correctly. And this is so in the IDEA acronym, going back to the IDEA Training Academy, in the IDEA acronym, it is identity, disciplines, execution, and accountability. And this is a misalignment of the execution part of that framework, because we're doing a lot, but we're not doing what matters. When was the last time you said yes to something and then later realized that it didn't have anything to do with your actual goals? Or when was the last time you sat down and really figured out what your goals were? Because let's start there. If you don't have goals, it's not that you should worship those goals. It's not you should be laser focused on those goals. But if you don't have a better future version of yourself, then you're never going to get there. Disciplines can only be built if you know where the moments of execution are going to come up the road. So this is a misalignment of execution. So I'm going to give you a filter. I'm going to give you a three-way filter for looking at this, right? And we're going to walk this through the IDEA framework. So identity, disciplines, execution, accountability. We're going to walk it through that. So here's the first part of the filter. The first part of the filter is mission alignment. And this has to do with your identity. Now, remember, when I talk about identity, I'm certainly not talking about who you used to be. Who you were, it's great. Sometimes it informs your present identity. But I'm here to tell you, regardless of what a lot of people may tell you, dealing with everything in your past is not the path to the better future. It's not to say that dealing with some of it isn't going to be beneficial for you, but it's not the path to your best future. So I'm not talking about your identity in terms of your past self. I'm also not talking about your identity necessarily as much in terms of your present self. Because, and again, this was in the conversation with Jim yesterday. I said, I've got this big problem with society that we slap labels on people and then we decide that that's what their identity is. He was talking about a person he had talked to, and they'd had like a 45-minute conversation, and he found out about her ADHD and her ADD and her OCD and her, self-diagnosed disorders, right? And he said, after 45 minutes, I knew everything that she called herself, and she didn't know anything about me. So on the one hand, you have to ask yourself, when you're in conversation with someone else, are you really interested in knowing that person, or are you only interested in being known? Because let me post this up to you. If your only interest in having a conversation with someone is being known by that person, then you probably don't know yourself. You're probably searching for yourself, and what you're looking for is some glimmer of recognition in that other person. So, what I'm saying is, from an identity standpoint, you've got to work beyond your labels. You have to work into the hard stuff, which is, who am I? And more importantly, who am I becoming? Because once you figure out who you're becoming, then you can set your mission. So you're going to ask yourself every time something comes up, is this moving me closer to who I want to become? Now, if you don't know who you want to become, then you got to figure it out. Stop here, pause podcast, stop the, rewind, whatever, right? You got to figure that out. Who do you want to become? And if you don't know that, if you don't know who you want to be, you got to work with somebody. You got to work with somebody. You got to get a coach. You got to get some perspective, whatever it is, a mentor. You've got to get somebody who can help you figure out who you want to become. So that's the first question you need to ask is who do I want to become? And then the second question is this aligned with what I feel called to do? So let's go back to my business partner, and he wants to turn this little publishing house into a production company. And my question is that aligned with my deeper calling and values? No, it's not. It's not. And in fact, even the little publishing bit that we're doing, it's not so aligned that I wouldn't put it at the bottom of my priority list. There's so many things that would come before that it's got to be understood that that's going to be at the bottom of my priority list because it's the thing that I'm willing to commit to that's farthest from my deeper calling. And is it aligned with your values? Your values are the signposts along the way that tell you if you're going in the right direction. So you should always be looking for things that tie into your values. So values for me are, am I adding value? Am I creating value in this situation? Am I able to pursue this with energy and with joy? That's a value of mine. Am I doing this for someone other than myself? That's a value of mine. So you have to evaluate these things not just in terms of what somebody else around you wants, but in terms of your own personal values. Because when you're not rooted in your identity, then everything looks equally important or becomes equally distracting. So, and you simply cannot let that happen. So here's the second filter. So that's the first filter. First filter is through mission alignment. Let's see. Pardon me for a moment. Okay. So second part is execution, is around execution. So this is your strategic impact. So two questions on this one too. What kind of impact is this going to make? Number one, will this still matter in 6 months? Because if it's not going to still matter in 6 months, then it needs to go low on the priority list. So number one, is it aligned with my mission? If it's not, bump it down. Question number two, is it strategically, does it make any sense? Will it still matter in 6 months? And also, does it create forward momentum? So is it creating forward momentum? Are you actually getting somewhere? And this is the problem with the whole bill pay question for us, right? Is that sometimes we get so caught up in paying those bills that we don't realize we're just treading water. We're not making forward progress. Now, if we're able to, here's an example of where something might be missional. So if the person you want to become is someone who is out of debt, then the high priority activity is saving, not just paying the bills on time. Because when we're just paying the bills on time, we're not making any forward momentum. We're just progressing, right? We're just treading water. So the second question here is, does it create forward momentum or does it just satisfy urgency? Because execution isn't about doing the most things. It's about doing things that move your mission forward. So question number one, does it move me closer to who I want to become? Is it in line with my mission and my identity? Question number two, does it make strategic impact? Is there execution involved? Will it still matter in 6 months? Is it creating forward momentum? Here's question number three, or here's the third filter rather. The third filter is, and this goes back to Jesse said it and Kat said it, I think. My energy and my time, or my resources. And this in the idea framework is a disciplines and accountability thing. So disciplines because we have things we have to do every single day to keep us on track towards our best version of ourselves. I already told you guys. I already been to the gym today. I already ate my breakfast and my lunch today. I took a 15-minute walk after lunch to help avoid that glucose spike and to help me maintain the energy to do this. I have been drinking water nonstop today, right? All of those things that I do every day, those are disciplines. Why do I do them? Not just because I believe that I'm becoming a disciplined person, but because I understand that those provide me with the energy and the resources to do what I need to do. There are three things: energy, resources, and authority. And the last one is the hardest one. So I don't want you to always wait for the authority. I don't want you to think you need, oh, I just need one more certification or one more case study or one more thing. Get out and do the thing. By all means, if it's on mission, go do it. But when it comes down to it, if you've gotten through mission, yes, it's on mission. And then you've gotten through momentum, yes, it's actually moving me forward. Then the third thing could be, do I actually have what I need to get it done? And if not, then what I would say is you need to prioritize building those things. So you need to prioritize building those disciplines into your life first in order to move up to the next step, right? And then the second question that I wrote down around this is, am I saying yes because it's mine or just because it's unclaimed, right? Do you ever have those things in your life where you think, well, nobody else is doing it, so I better do it? What would happen if you just let them go? Have you ever tried just letting something go instead of jumping on it just because it was unclaimed? A lot of people are terrified by that idea, especially people who have the working genius of tenacity. They have a desperate need to see things get done, and I totally understand that. But if you're saying yes because it just needs to get done and not because it's yours, not because it belongs to you, then that's a filter. You need to filter that lower on your priority list. See, sometimes saying yes is actually a lack of boundaries. And when you have disciplines, and then accountability is the other bookend to that. Accountability says, I have people in my life who know what my mission is and who are holding me to that. Now, for me, that's my wife. I'm very, very lucky. I've got my wife. And anytime I've got something like this, like I did not run this whole new business opportunity past her yesterday. But if I had, what she would have told me is, that is not on your mission. That is not aligned with your mission. And I would have gone, you know what? You're absolutely right. So you have to have people in your life who create structures of accountability for you. So I know that there are some of you who are out there who are in the streaming world, and this goes double for you. So if you're becoming a content creator, if you are a content creator and you want to grow and you don't have any structure of accountability above and beyond just I push the button when I feel like it, then you're not going to grow. You can't. Statistically, scientifically, impossible. You will not get there. You got to figure it out. If you want to grow, if you want to build a business, if you want to build a better life, you've got to have accountability. And that means you need to get hooked up. I'm not talking about some stream team that's going to blast you out on social media every time you go live. That's not the point. I'm saying you have to have people who know what your mission is. First of all, you have to know what your mission is. You have to have people who know what your mission is, and you've got to be accountable to those people. They've got to know what you're trying to accomplish, and you've got to report back. You're absolutely right. Thank you, Phoenix, and welcome in, by the way, dude. Good to see you. Arisen Phoenix, a good streaming friend. He knows all this stuff. He's been through this. He'll tell you. What if it is a secret mission? It can't be a secret mission at TerraTex. There's no secret missions in life. There's only secret missions in war, and this is not war. And in war, if you did have a secret mission, by the way, you would have high levels of accountability because there's no such thing as a secret mission. There's always somebody who knows about it. So I don't want you to have those lack of boundaries. I want you to have disciplines on the one hand, which are things that you always do. Things that you always do because they're getting you someplace. And I want you to have accountability on the other hand, which is people who hold you to what you said you were going to do. My newsletter last week, go down and listen to it or read it, andrewburkum.substack.com, talks a little bit about this. It talks about what happens when you do what you said you were going to do. And the difference between when you do that and when you don't is success. quite frankly. These things that I'm giving you are there to protect your energy. Because you only energy is a finite resource. You can do all the right things. You can eat all the right breakfasts and lunches, and you can take all the post-lunch walks, and you can do the glucose blocking thing, and you can go to the gym, and you can monitor all of your HRVs and blood pressures and all that stuff. And you can do all that. Do your breathing and your mindfulness activities, but you're still going to have a finite amount of energy, and you've got to protect it for what matters. Because if you're not protecting your finite energy for what matters, then there's going to come a time when you need to do something that's going to get you to the next level and you can't because you don't have the energy to do it. So that's the three-part filter. Number one, is it aligned with my mission? Number two, is it strategic? Does it make strategic sense? Is it moving me forward? Number three, is it good stewardship of my energy and my time? Both of which are finite resources. So, which one of these three things do you struggle with most? Do you struggle with the identity end of it, where you're just not sure what the mission is, and so you don't know how to align things with it? Or do you struggle more with the execution end, where you're like everything that comes through, you really don't have a concept of whether it's moving you forward or not? Or is it more about the discipline and accountability piece? Is it more about you don't have your lifestyle locked in, and so you don't know what brings you energy and what takes energy away from you? Because whichever one of those it is, for me, I would say the biggest one for me, excuse me, is probably the second one. A lot of times, if I'm going to forget to take something into account, it's going to be whether or not this is actually creating forward momentum. That partially comes because I'm a person who has the working genius, and I can talk all day long about the working geniuses, but I have the working genius that's called enablement. And enablement means that I derive joy and energy from helping other people out. In fact, that's what I believe is the reason I was put on this earth is to help people. But as a result, sometimes I so over index on wanting to help everyone that I don't identify whether things move me forward or not, or even move them forward or not. Right. And that's why when we talk about enablement, like you probably have heard enablement as a bad term. And that's why, because enablement without thinking about whether it's helping the person move forward is toxic enablement. That's when we help people stay in unhealthy lifestyles. And you've done it. I've done it. We've all done it. There's no shame there. But next time you are telling somebody, oh, it's okay. That's just the way you are. Yeah, sure. Have one more, whatever it is. Right. You know what? That's just where you're at right now. Ask yourself, are you moving them forward or not? And if you're not, then just be aware you're in the shadow side of enablement. And what that will turn into over time is a need to be needed. And when you have a need to be needed, and I'm speaking from first person experience here, this is me. I am now being highly vulnerable. When I need to be needed, I will do things that violate my values. I've done it before, and I have vowed to be very, very specific about not doing it in the future. Now, I'll mess up and I'll do it, I'm sure. But this business opportunity I was talking about is a great example. To get into business with this partner that this person wants me to get into business with, who is a brilliant human being and highly creative and highly magnetic and possibly, worth a fortune, an unclaimed fortune. But to get into business with that person who I know is fiscally irresponsible would be a violation of my values, of my business values. And I was about ready to do that. Right. And that came from my need to be needed. Don't need to be needed so much that you don't recognize when you're going outside the lanes. The identity part for sure for you, Jesse. So if for you, it's trying to figure out what the mission is. Totally understand. We can talk more about that. In fact, let's talk more about that. Listen, guys, if you're in my Discord, I want you to throw this stuff at me. So hit me with a DM if it's private, right? If not, let me know, in the general chat. There's a coaching cohort chat that's a hidden chat too, just for people who are interested in going deeper in this stuff. I can get you in there. Let me know if you want to be in there. But hit me up. Let me know what that stuff is so that I can develop these, because I really want to develop these streams around you guys. I have ideas every week, but I want to make this about you and what actually solves a problem for you. It's how you're also feeling like identity is your main issue. Sounds like maybe we need to spend some more time focusing on mission. Don't forget to read those newsletters because they do help with that. That is a part of it. And there are some tools in there that will help you. But yeah, let's spend some more time over the next few weeks talking a little bit more about mission and identity because those are important things. Now, here's the other thing, and this is what I wrote about on this last Friday, and it is what I wrote in my notes today was this is the hidden reason that we say yes to everything. So there are some reasons that are pretty obvious, and some of those are that we don't have a good concept of what our mission is. We don't really have a concept of how things align with our values, right? We don't have the right disciplines in place, all of those things. But I think that there's a hidden reason that we say yes to everything, and it's something that I've noticed in myself, and I've noticed it in my coaching clients as well. And it's this. Sometimes we say yes to everything because we're trying to be perfect at everything. This it's a trap. This whole perfectionism concept. And even if you think I'm not a perfectionist, just ask yourself, are you okay with leaving something 70% done? Because the perfectionism trap makes you think that you should be able to do it all flawlessly. And let me tell you, let me let you off the hook. You can't do it all flawlessly. You might be able to do it all well, but chances are some of it you're going to do poorly if you're trying to do it all. So I want you to let yourself go of that because perfectionism will not get you to excellence. If you're just, I don't know how many people that I hear, oh, I'm anal, I'm OCD. I hear all of these self diagnosed things. And what I tell them is your perfectionism is only leading you to paralysis. You can't do everything perfectly. What is important is that you do the right things well. And maybe not even perfectly, like maybe 70% is okay. But the key is figuring out which are the right things and doing those well, not trying to do everything perfectly. Because you can't. I can't. Trust me. I feel the same way. I'm a firstborn, right? And I get all this stuff that goes with that. I'm a pastor's kid, and I got all this stuff that goes along with that, right? So I got all of this need to be perfect, right? Moved, when I was a teenager, an early teenager, moved, across the country and into an established social group of people, and had all of the problems that came along with that. And so it was always a question of trying to catch up, trying to be better. And so, like, I've got all that stuff too, right? That's all trained into me. But you can't do everything perfectly. You just have to do the right things well. Kitty cat, what about when people around you expect you to be perfect to do everything? Then kitty cat, then you need to have a talk with people, right? Because the people around you can't expect you to carry off everything perfectly. If they do, then they do not see you as a human being. And that's a big problem, right? Because if the people you surround yourself with do not see you as a human being, then you're gonna be in a perpetual state of disappointing them. You cannot allow that. And more importantly, you cannot allow, if they're not able to see you realistically, you cannot allow their disappointment to become your disappointment. Because their disappointment is fake. Their disappointment is false. And you cannot allow it into your own identity. That's the key right there, right? Eh, Doc, just do everything perfectly. Get good, right? Easy. I guess my advice isn't no, not what I was advising. Under promise and over produce, right? Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said for the old under promise and over produce, right? But also there's something to just being very clear about what your capacity is. And that's okay. Because here's the thing, you do something great. I do something great. I'm pretty good at this, to be perfectly honest, right? I'm pretty good at giving people things to hang on to and to do in their lives that will make them better. I'm pretty good at talking to people, even across a camera. So I do those things pretty well. You do something pretty well too. Do that really well. And then the other stuff, do it as well as you can. But don't measure yourself by other people's standards. And this is what's going into the newsletter next week is that we, how we, or in this last week rather, sorry, how we move from perfectionism to progress, because it's not about adding more perfect yeses. Sometimes it's about embracing the right no's, right? Figuring out what deserves your yes and what doesn't. And that's what that framework that I gave you hopefully does. Prime example, it says Tal. Husband expects me to cook, still to cook when I'm sick. Right now, it's hard to even care for myself, let alone another full grown adult. That's right. So the conversation there is, um, why would that be an expectation, right? Why would that be an expectation? If it's not something that you're capable of doing, there's no other way to solve the problem. So that's what I'm talking about, right? Is the people who surround you, and this will it's reciprocal. So if you continue to behave in that same pattern without having the hard conversation of I cannot do this, or I cannot do this well, or this has got to be a lower priority for me. If you cannot have that hard conversation, then what you're doing is you're telling that person it's okay. It's okay to treat you that way. You're telling them it's okay to see you that way, right? And we can't do that. I do it all the time, right? So I'm not pointing a finger at you. I'm just saying like this is something we deal with, guys, and we've all got to get a little more courageous about it. Or I cannot do this right now. That's right, right? Sometimes it's just I can't do this right now. I can do it. I'll be glad to do it for you. I want to do it for you. I want to serve you. I cannot do it right now. It is beyond my capacity, right? And this is a lot of this stuff sounds like it's just for leaders, guys, but it's not. This whole conversation, I know I started it in interviews, but it applies to all of us because we're all facing this chaos, the inboxes and the family needs and the business opportunities and the pressure from the outside world. We're all facing that, and everything feels urgent to you all the time. But how often do things feel aligned for you? Because if nothing feels aligned and everything feels urgent, then you're in response mode and you will never get to your best future in response mode. Change the question. Change it from can I do this to should I do this? Because you can do anything. But should you do everything? Should you do anything? That's in the Bible. That's a biblical concept, by the way, right? Everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. It's basically the biblical way of saying you can do anything, but should you do anything? Is anything going to make you the best version of yourself? That, by the way, I will just give a very brief theological point. That is the actual point of Christianity. A lot of people think that Christianity is a whole system that's just designed to get people to stop doing the wrong things, but that's not. If you actually read the Bible, which I have done many times in the original languages, if you actually read it and you understand what it says and not just what somebody who's up on the stage is telling you that it says, who maybe went to a discount Bible college and can't pronounce Greek right. I'm not talking about anybody in specific. Um, but if you're just getting from that, a lot of what you're getting is, well, you just need to change. Like Christianity is just about you changing and being better, and like if you're not better, if you're not perfect, and there it is, right? If you're not perfect, then you're not there. And then people will tell you, well, it's really not about perfection; it's about progress. But then what do they tell you? They tell you, yeah, but if there's sin in your life, then you're not it. You're going to hell, right? Whether you're Christian or not. I'm going to extremes, but you'll hear this. Like you walk into a Christian church, you're going to hear this stuff, right? But when you really read the Bible and you really understand what it says, the reason to stop doing what we would say are the wrong things, right? And to start doing the right things, it's not it's not to elevate to a place where, God will somehow love you more. The point of it is to become the best version of yourself because that's what God designed you to be. God designed you to be the best version of something, not just an okay version of something, right? And so all of this stuff with salvation and stuff like that, it's not even in the conversation. That's a way earlier conversation. Forgiveness is done, right? All of that is done. But the question is, Are you striving to become the best version of yourself? Because that's the design of you. So whether you believe in that or whether you don't, I'm here to tell you scientifically it's a thing. If you believe that there's a better version of you and you are actively pursuing it, you will become better. You will be more successful. So pursue that. We're too tempted. So sorry, I'm catching up with chat. Too tempted. We're to attempt to become a vessel of love, which demands we do good quality work, being a steward of opportunities we're blessed with, being forgiving to our others and selves. God is love. Absolutely, 100%. Right. It's all about that, right? The reason that and there are a lot of pastors nowadays, and they'll get into this. Oh, everyone has talked about love, and love is fine, but let's talk about your sin, right? And listen, guys, it's not about that. It's just like in business when we're talking about failure. Failure sucks. I don't want to fail in another business ever again. It's put me in some pretty financial difficult places over my life, but I'm going to do it probably. But when I do, I'm going to try and learn so that the next time I can become better. And that's really what that Christian mindset is supposed to be about too. So sorry if I blew anybody up with like being a crazy theologian there for a second, but it's just that's very core to my nature. And it's also a bug that's under my skin constantly right now because a lot of the things that I'm hearing preached. It's not that I am advocating for doing bad things. It's not that I'm advocating for sin. It is that what I believe is really important is that we figure out why we become better. And it's not just because somebody told us to, right? It's because that's the design. So when you know your identity, and this goes back to that same conversation, if you will. If you know what your identity is, if you know who you are and who you're becoming, if you build disciplines, which are, hey, these are the right things that I'm going to do every single day. These are the things I'm going to do to stay centered, to stay centered spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally. That enables you to make the right execution. That enables you to make the right strategic moves in your life to get to the next step, to get to the next level, to become the next better person. And then accountability keeps you honest. And honestly, accountability pulls you forward. Without that sense of accountability, you'll eventually hit an obstacle and it's going to be hard to bounce off of it. So remember identity, disciplines, execution, and accountability. I believe that's the focus of everything. So this week, here's your challenge. This week, I want you to look at your schedule or to-do list, and I want you to ask, what of these things am I? And first of all, if you don't have a schedule, remember what Brendan Burchard said, right? If you don't fill your calendar, life will. So if you're not putting things on your calendar, oh, good Lord. TikTok decided I was done. There we go. If you're not putting things on your calendar that align with your mission, life will put things on your calendar that don't align with your mission, that align with other people's mission. So what are you doing out of pressure, not purpose, this week that's on your calendar? And what actually aligns with your mission? And where do you have things on your calendar where you've committed out of guilt or out of habit and not a discipline, not a habit that moves you forward, just a habit? Overeating is a habit. Drinking too much is a habit. Medicating yourself with screen use is a habit, right? Where am I overcommitting out of habits or perfectionism, right? Either your perfectionism or someone else's perfectionism that you have accepted upon yourself. And then what could I make progress on if I let go of it? Or if I let go of the need to do it perfectly? What could I make progress on if I just said, you know what? I don't need to do this 100%. Right? So run everything through that yes filter this week. Does it fit with your identity? Will it drive meaningful execution? And can you steward it well through disciplines and accountability? And if it doesn't pass the filter, just consider releasing it, or at least push it to the bottom of your priority list. And please remember, if you hear anything else today, you don't have to do everything perfectly. Okay? If it takes Andrew to tell you to give you permission, I give you permission. You don't have to do everything perfectly. You just have to make progress on what matters. So do that this week. So, I'd love to hear your DMs. I'd love to get those. I got a couple of messages this last week, and I really appreciate the people who take the time to give messages. I had a couple of people who messaged me this last week and just let me know, hey, you know what? I know that I know that Thursday is not a stream that you have 100 people in, but it means something to me. It changes something in the way that I look at things on a weekly basis. So I'm not saying you have to send me that stuff, but let me know where you're at. Let me know what your filter story is this week. And then join me on Substack, andrewburkum.substack.com, because I will be going deeper into this every single week. We're going to go deeper into it. And then send me those ideas too for what you want to talk about in the stream. In fact, let's see. Did I get any questions this week? I don't have time for Q&A this week, but let's take a look and see. Okay, so in the Discord, there is a Q&A link. You can always toss stuff in there as well. So here's kind of the nuns wear habits. I don't think they should get rid of them. Oh my goodness. Whole different thing. If it's not in my calendar, it doesn't exist. I agree with that 100%. Let me just close with this thought. When you say yes to everything, what you're doing is you're diluting the power of your mission. And you have a mission, whether you know it or not, you have one. And when you try to do everything perfectly, then you're paralyzing yourself. But it is saying yes to the right things and focusing on progress, on how things move you forward. That's what helps you reclaim your focus. That's what helps you reclaim your time. Excuse me. And that is what will help you maintain your impact. So this week, filter your yes. Decide what deserves your yes and what doesn't. Equestrians also wear riding habits. There you go. Today I learned a thing. Listen, guys, that's got to be it for me. I am 2 minutes late to my next meeting. I hope you have a great week. Take care of yourself. I will see you next time. Until then, guys, listen, remember, it's inside you. Just go be great. You can do it.